We're not talking about a doctrine. We're talking about destinies. I want to illustrate the importance of this teaching with two stories. I know that many of you love when I tell stories, so I have two stories to tell you, and I'll try to tell them quickly to make the point. What do you do when you see a shark fin in the water? When you see the shark fin, not on Shark Week, when you see it. So from me to you, you see the shark fin. Years ago, I was surfing in Virginia Beach with my younger brother Mark, who was terrified of sharks because my mother and father abused us and let us watch Jaws way before we should have. And we're watching this movie, and we go surfing, and he's terrified. Everything's a shark to him. And we're out there surfing. He's on his bodyboard. I'm on my surfboard. We're paddling around right next to a pier where they go fishing. And all of a sudden, a shark fin rises up in between both of us and starts to swim around us. Mark's face went pale like he saw a ghost. I looked at him as I'm looking at you here this morning, and all I said to him was, "Pick up your feet. That way he won't bite your feet." And he literally picked up his feet and started swimming towards me. And after about 5 minutes and the shark disappeared, 5 minutes had passed, he looked at me and said, "What does that mean, to pick up your feet? What are we doing out here in the water?" I said, "Well, it hasn't hurt us yet." I was scared too. I didn't know what else to say. "What should you say when you see a shark?" "Shark! Get out of the water!" If your little kids are out there swimming and the Jaws shows up, you're out there running, well, maybe you just throw them a rope, pull them in. Shark! Now, that's the first story. The second story was years and years and years later, when I was more of an adult. We were at my parents' house, and some of you have heard this story before. We were at my parents' house celebrating New Year's Day, and we were just kind of eating leftovers, and all of a sudden we smelled something burning. And we started sniffing around the house. It smelled like plastic burning. And to make a long story short, I had collected Star Wars figures, and they were in my room, all set up nice and neat. You had like scenes from Star Wars. I was only 22. I was still a kid. And they're all in my room, and as we're sniffing around, I realized, all of a sudden a thought hit me. If my room was on fire, that's what it would smell like. And I didn't tell anybody. I ran up the stairs, I opened up the door, black smoke comes rushing out. It's flames up the side of the wall. I had a cup of hot chocolate in my hand. I threw it on the wall. And then I started screaming, "Fire! Fire!" I mean, I can't tell you the kind of emotion. I can't even fake it up here. I was terrified because the flames were shooting up into the ceiling, and I was also terrified that my dad was going to kill me. And it was shooting up into the ceiling, and I ran downstairs screaming at the top of my lungs, "Fire! Fire! 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 Everybody get out!" My dad goes rushing up. I won't tell you the rest of the story. They put the fire out. That's how you respond to danger. That's how you respond when you see people's destinies at stake. Why do we blush at the mention of hell? If you really believe it. If you really believe that Jesus is who he said he was and that his teachings are true, what do you do when a shark fins in the water? What do you do when there's a fire? What do you do when you see somebody drinking a bottle with skull and crossbones on it? What do you do when the bridge is out? You let cars zoom by? What do? You tell them. You plead with them. It's simple common decency, isn't it? What do you do when people are in danger and are on their way to what Jesus calls an eternal hell that is unquenchable? It's like an unquenchable fire, an everlasting darkness where the worms never die. What do? We sit in our church. We enjoy some good music, decent preaching, complain about little things here and there, build our building. Or do we go about mission? Do we go about urgent mission? Do we go about getting out of our Christian circles and into the non-Christian circles to those who are smiling in their cars on their way to an eternal destiny separated from God?